She was a devoted mother. A woman who worked tirelessly to provide for her daughter, who encouraged her, supported her, and gave her every opportunity she never had herself. But in the quiet suburbs of Akron, Ohio, the home they shared became the setting for a crime so chilling, it stunned the nation. When police arrived, they discovered a brutal scene, one that made even hardened detectives pause in disbelief. Because the killer wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows, or a burglar caught in the act. The killer was her own teenage daughter. And the secret she was hiding, the secret worth killing for, was darker and more twisted than anyone could have imagined. Brenda Powell was 50 years old. A mother, a mentor, and by all accounts, the kind of woman people were drawn to. Friends described her as kind-hearted, deeply spiritual, and endlessly giving. She worked at Akron Children's Hospital, helping children through some of their most difficult days, and she had a reputation for compassion that extended far beyond her workplace. At home, Brenda's focus was her daughter, Sydney. She raised her as a single parent, making sacrifices so her only child could have the kind of future she had always dreamed of. Sydney was smart, beautiful, and ambitious, at least from the outside. Brenda believed in her daughter's potential. She believed Sydney was destined for greatness. But what Brenda didn't know was that Sydney was harboring a secret, one that would eventually unravel everything. Like many teenage daughters and mothers, Brenda and Sydney had their ups and downs. Friends say Brenda was protective, sometimes strict, but always motivated by love. Sydney, however, felt the weight of expectation. She was supposed to excel in school, go to college, and build a career. But beneath the surface, Sydney's academic life was crumbling. She was failing classes, skipping lectures, and hiding it all behind lies. Every time Brenda asked about school, Sydney would smile and reassure her. But behind closed doors, panic grew. Each report card, each email from the university was another ticking time bomb. Brenda began to notice inconsistencies. Questions about grades led to tension. Arguments escalated. And in Sydney's mind, the walls began to close in. On the afternoon of March 3, 2020, neighbors reported hearing raised voices inside the Powell home. At first, it sounded like another mother-daughter argument. Nothing unusual. But then, silence. Later that evening, a 911 call came from the Powell residence. The dispatcher could hear muffled screams in the background, and then, nothing. The call abruptly ended. When police rushed to the scene, they found Brenda lying in the living room. She had been bludgeoned, her skull fractured in a brutal attack. We believe that every mystery holds a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. Subscribing to The Shadow gives you exclusive access to gripping true crime stories and deep dives into the darkest secrets. Subscribe for more. At first, investigators considered the possibility of a home invasion. But something didn't add up. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing had been stolen. And the only other person inside the house was 19-year-old Sydney. The first twist was undeniable. The killer was not an outsider, but the very daughter Brenda had dedicated her life to. Detectives secured the scene and began their work. The murder weapon was found nearby, a frying pan, its handle smeared with blood. In the heat of the attack, Sydney had used it with shocking force. Brenda's injuries told the story of rage. This wasn't a quick act of violence. It was personal. When police questioned Sydney, she seemed dazed, detached. Her story shifted with each retelling. At first, she claimed she couldn't remember. Then she said it was an accident. Then she denied involvement altogether. But detectives noticed something chilling. Sydney wasn't acting like a grieving daughter. She was cold. Almost empty. As detectives dug deeper, the truth began to surface. Sydney's college records painted a very different picture from the one she had shown her mother. Far from excelling, she had been failing multiple classes. In fact, she was on the verge of being expelled. Emails from the university revealed that Brenda was just beginning to discover the truth. On the very day of the murder, she had confronted Sydney about her academic performance. That confrontation, police believed, was the breaking point. Sydney wasn't just afraid of disappointing her mother. She was terrified of the collapse of the carefully constructed lies she had been telling for months. And when the pressure became too much, she snapped. But detectives soon uncovered something even more disturbing. The biggest piece of evidence came from the 911 call. While Sydney attacked her mother, she had accidentally dialed emergency services. The recording captured the chaos in real time: Brenda's cries, the sound of blows, and Sydney's chilling voice in the background. That call alone could have convicted her. But the second twist made the case even more shocking. Investigators found a notebook hidden in Sydney's room. In it, she had written disturbing entries, not just about her struggles in school, but about fantasies of violence. Pages detailed her anger toward her mother, and her fear of exposure. But the most chilling revelation? Sydney hadn't planned to stop with her mother. She had also written about harming herself, and possibly others, in what appeared to be a twisted plan to end everything once her lies came crashing down. This wasn't just a moment of anger. It was a premeditated descent into darkness. Sydney Powell was arrested and charged with murder. Her trial was emotional, with prosecutors painting her as cold, calculated, and dangerous. The defense argued mental illness, claiming Sydney had suffered a psychotic break. But the evidence was overwhelming. The 911 call. The bloody frying pan. The diary filled with violent fantasies. In the end, the jury found her guilty. She was sentenced to life in prison. As the verdict was read, members of Brenda's family wept. They weren't just mourning the loss of a beloved sister, aunt, and friend. They were mourning Sydney too, the girl Brenda had raised, the girl she had loved, the girl who had thrown it all away in one horrific act. The case of Brenda and Sydney Powell shocked Akron, and far beyond. It wasn't just the brutality of the murder that disturbed people. It was the betrayal. The idea that a mother's love could be met with such violence. Brenda's legacy lives on in the lives she touched at the children's hospital, in the kindness she showed to everyone around her. But the haunting truth remains: sometimes the darkest secrets aren't hidden by strangers. Sometimes they live inside the people closest to us. And in this case, that secret was so heavy, so twisted, that it turned a daughter into a killer. We believe that every mystery holds a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. Subscribing to The Shadow gives you exclusive access to gripping true crime stories and deep dives into the darkest secrets. Subscribe for more.